Life.
And welcome in, everyone, to the sixth ring here on 5 Reasons Sports. It's nice to be doing something live, nice to be talking some college football, talking some Miami Hurricanes. You know, it's Friday. They've started practice. I think about an hour and 15 minutes ago they started things out. So, it really feels like fall season is coming up, man. Early September. Let's go. Now, yesterday, Thursday, was a big day and a crazy day as I welcome in our dudes here. We got Jazz, we got Danny, we got Paul along for the ride. And I mean, guys, Thursday was wild. You had the schedule release. You had a big recruiting announcement for Miami. You also had a big opt-out. And let's start there. Maybe I was naive not to see this coming and expect something like this happening, but Gregory Russo, who, is projected to be a first-round pick, Miami stud defensive end who, was really projected to run things this coming season, he made the announcement. Actually, Manny Diaz made the announcement on his behalf that, due to COVID-19 concerns, he's actually opting out for the 2020 season. Listen, I don't really know. I'm not going to get on my soapbox one way or another about this. I think we're going to see this happen throughout the country. I mean, who am I to tell anyone what they should or should not be concerned about health-wise? I know that we commonly see stuff like this in college football, even without a pandemic, when you talk about players opting not to play in bowl games if it's not college football playoff. And now that you have a pandemic concern, I think we're going to see, I would assume, more, projected first-round picks decide why even take the risk to play this year. I just think that's the reality of where we live in. But from a fan standpoint, if I can be selfish here for a second, it's a big bummer. I mean, to lose the guy who's arguably, the best player on my team, if maybe top 2, if you throw Brevin Jordan in that mix, maybe De'Aaron King, so top 3 player coming in for Miami, to not have his services at defensive end this year. I mean, Jazz, I'll start with you. Were you surprised by this announcement yesterday, and what was your takeaway on it?
First of all, definitely our best player, right? At least that's the way I feel. I think De'Aaron King is definitely a close second, and maybe Brevin Jordan. But, with Brevin Jordan, it still remains to see because he gets hurt a lot. So we'll see. But, yeah, I was shocked. And the reason I think I was even more shocked is because I'm actually watching the Manny presser, or the press conference, when he said it right towards the end. Hey, guys, by the way, Gregory Russo has decided to opt out. So my jaw just dropped, and I go, wow, we can't have anything nice down here. I mean, we get a huge commitment, which obviously we'll go through soon now with Leonard Taylor, and then all of a sudden, boom, you get that. A lot of other guys are going to start doing it. Michael Parsons decided to opt out, I think, also from Penn State. He's another potential top 10 pick in next year's draft. So I think what you're going to see is a lot more, like you said, Donno, a lot more high-profile players do it because of their stock, their draft stock. They don't want to get hurt, or they don't want to get sick and maybe have any long-term effects. They don't know what it is, and I get it. I understand it. But like you, being selfish, it was a total bummer, dude. I was just like, you got to be kidding me here. It's just, the cliche, next man up, right? Guys like Jalen Phillips, Jafari Harvey, Quincy Roche, and even guys, some other guys that the Williams brothers, I call them, right? Chance and Cam, and everybody else is just going to have to step up now and take that. The good news is we're deep at that position, right? That's one of our deepest positions, if not our deepest. So that's the good news, right? And we still got Roche, who could potentially be an early round pick as well. So bummer, but we got to keep it moving and see what happens with these guys. Let these guys develop, and now just take the reins and go for it.
Man, nice to see Jaccare on board as well. So, let me bring you in with a bang, Jaccare. Now that you're on board, we were just reacting to Gregory Russo making the decision to opt out for 2020. I can't really be too surprised, because if you look at this from his perspective, he's got a lot more potentially to lose than to gain by playing this year. And I think there will be a lot of players, that will use this opportunity, if you're a top 10, top 20 projected pick, to not play this year. So, Jock, were you surprised to see this? And what's your take on Greg's decision? Oh, maybe he's not actually in yet. Let me get Paul. Let me get your take on it.
Okay. So, like Jazz, I was watching the press conference live, and I just remember it was about to end. You could kind of sense it was about to end, and then Manny one throw and one note, and I just assumed that okay, maybe one guy's hurt or something. It was just kind of like this, a little note. But then he said that, and I was like, whoa. This is literally like a bombshell. Like this is something that's out of nowhere. Like we thought that we'd have probably the best defensive line in the country, with Rousseau and Quincy Roche on the other side. I think he had 13 sacks last year, and we thought like no one could stop us, or the Canes. I don't want to say us as part of the team, but like Jazz said, literally word for word, Manny said, we got to have a next man up mentality where, whoever the backup is, you got to be ready to step in. And I don't, it's a weird way to say this, but there's probably not another position that I'd want this at than defensive end just because of the depth. So you have Quincy Roche, who's still on the other side, 13 sacks last year with Temple. And then on top of that, you have former UCLA transfer Jalen Phillips, who's 6'5", 265, hit 22 miles per hour on the gun somewhere. And coaches and players have raved about him in workouts. And as well as Jafari Harvey, who redshirted last season. He got some game action, played in 4 games for the max for the redshirt. But coaches and players have been raving about this kid for a while.
They say he may be the most athletic, right?
I think so, yeah. Like he's an athletic freak. Like a lot of like similar comparisons to Russo, where they have like that lengthy wingspan, that very athletic build. I'm sorry, and it was kind of alarming at first, but when you look at the big picture, as long as like one of those guys doesn't opt out too, then Miami honestly should be fine in the end. And you can't blame Russo because, like you guys mentioned, he has a lot more to lose at this point. He brought up the fact that his mom is a nurse, and I can honestly understand because my mom was a nurse too, and just the risk with everything and playing. I mean, because one guy I'm going to bring up is Xavier Thomas, who's actually the star defensive end at Clemson. And if you guys got word,
he got really sick.
Yeah. He got COVID in the spring, and he's still suffering from effects now. And I think Dabo said that he is expected to miss most of the season. That's
they
crazy.
ruled him out for the whole season.
Really?
Yeah.
See, so
I don't think he'll be playing at all.
So with Russo being a possible top 10 pick, it's kind of like you can't blame him for looking out for his own interests. It's millions of dollars on the line. And
a lot of those guys should opt out. I mean, if you have a first round grade, there's really no reason for you to play this season. You have nothing to gain because most likely they're going to be drafting off 2019 film anyway, because there's so much uncertainty going on with the draft. But a lot of the things that have been factoring into these guys' decision is the agents they've been talking to. That's the biggest key in their decisions. If an agent is promising you, like, hey, sit out a season, I'll pay for everything in Miami or LA or wherever you may want to train at, I'll pay for everything. I can offer you more money than you're going to make playing football this season, this upcoming year, obviously because these guys are not getting endorsed or paid. You thinking about it, hey, so that's why you see the Rosas and Parsons from Penn State, Rondell Moore. You're going to see the left tackle from Oregon. He's going to end up opting out as well because he has nothing to gain from this season. These guys are already surefire first-round picks. Rosas is only going to fall down to pick 12 if he falls out of the top 5 because you have a little bit of concern about his pass rush moves and how good he's going to translate to the NFL. But these guys have nothing to lose. But if an agent's promising me $2 million, hey, just sit out this season, $2 million, you're not going to turn that down. It's a life-changing decision.
I'm out of here. True. Yeah.
Go ahead, Danny. I'll give you last word on this.
I think it's a smart decision because when you talk about, how different this season is and all the uncertainty surrounding this season, if it's going to start, if it's going to finish, it's not worth, risking what you already have and what you've already worked hard to get for a season like this. Who knows? Maybe a freak injury could happen during the course of a season and then your stock plummets. Maybe, something happens, another player takes someone's spot and then his draft stock falls. So I think it was a really smart decision. And I've heard people take the angle that oh, he's skipping out the season. This is going to hurt his draft stock. Well, Christian McCaffrey sat out his bowl game, and I think he's doing A-okay right now.
He's doing all right.
Exactly.
And we think about Jalen Smith from Notre Dame. If he sits out the bowl game, we talk about a guy who's going top 3, top 5 pick. Gets hurt. Yep. He made his money in the long run, but how many guys recover from injuries like that?
Exactly.
There's only 2 guys I can think of. I got Smith, who did, and Frank Gore obviously recovered very well from it. But look at Willis McGahee. Never was the same running back after that freak injury.
Yeah, and I thought it's well said by everyone. And I thought, Paul brought up a great point that if this is going to happen at any position for Miami depth-wise, you're in good hands at defensive end, right? Because you talk about Jafari Harvey and Jalen Phillips. Like, let's not forget, Jalen Phillips a few years ago was the number 1 recruit in the country. Not the number 1 recruit at, on defense or at defensive end. Like, this was a former number 1 recruit at the country. And maybe, okay, he may not regain 100% of that form, but if he can regain 75% of that, he's going to be feasting, on the other side of Quincy Roche. And Jalen Phillips even tweeted out yesterday, no need to fear, right? After we got the Greg Russo opt-out announcement. So I think Jalen Phillips could, if things work out this way for Miami, could absolutely feast this year. And Manny Diaz continues to feast in recruiting. Honestly, I don't know how he's doing what he's doing, Diaz and his staff. When you think about the 4 stars and the 5 stars that they're not pulling in routinely, I don't know where that nasty echo is coming from. If that's on my end or if that's on somebody else's end, but okay, we found the culprit. No, it's all good. But you look at Leonard Taylor now committing to Miami. I know that, believe me, Miami isn't dropping bags the way that some of these SEC schools are doing. So I don't know if part of this are players wanting to
but you got to also factor in, I know he's doing a great job recruiting, but Miami's season is ultimately determined on how much he has improved as a head coach.
Oh,
because
for sure.
Miami was very unprepared last season in a lot of winnable games. You guys, I know as a fan, you were out there like some games, it was just like the FIU game was a disaster. Miami just looked like they wasn't prepared to play. So, yes, we're getting all this talent, but it's all predominantly built off. If he does not improve as a head coach, they're going to move on from him this season. After this year, he will be moved on from. And,
I think it has to. I mean, I think it has to, Jock, right? Like if you're pulling in all this talent, and you've got the number 8 class in the country right now, and you're pulling in these 5 stars, Dan James Williams and Leonard Taylor and Romello Brinson and all these big names that you're pulling in, and you're not winning. I mean, you got to go, right? I mean, it's just, and I get it, and I'm all for it. I think if you're going to bring in this talent, you need to develop them, and you need to win ball games, and not just blow out, the Bethune-Cookmans of the world. You need to be in tight ball games with the Clemson. You need to overcome issues that you have against guys like Pitt. You got to go at Sam Howell, and you got to beat North Carolina this year. It's going to be a tough game at the end of the season. That game could potentially,
determine the ACC.
Exactly. Right. So you have to win. Doc, I'm with you, man. It's 100% true.
Me personally, looking at their schedule, they have only 4 games where I'm like, I don't know if they can win. Clemson, Virginia Tech's always a tough game for them, in North Carolina because those guys up there. But that's the only 4 games I see. If he doesn't win at least 9 games with a quarterback, last time we seen him suited up for 12 games. He was a Heisman Trophy candidate, and he was going absolutely nuts at Houston with a new offensive coordinator. It's cause for concern for me. But one thing I do want to see Manny Diaz do this season is get back involved with the defense, because last year the defense kind of tailed off a little bit without him being much as hands-on as he was previous.
Well, and you brought up something on maybe that North Carolina game deciding the ACC championship. Now, remember this year, there's no divisions for this year. There's no Atlantic. There's no Coastal. Everyone's playing the 10-game conference schedule, and it's just going to be the teams with the best, the top 2 teams of best winning percentage in conference. Everyone gets the one non-conference game, which doesn't count towards the conference standings. So just the best 2 winning percentages obviously you can pencil in Clemson, number 1 team in the country. It would take a disaster for them not to be one of those top 2 teams in the ACC. But I mean, what do you guys think it's going to take to be the other team? You think maybe an 8-2 conference schedule gets you in? Could you get in at 7-3? Because I think it could be a dogfight for that second spot.
I don't think you can get in at 7-3. I mean, you got to factor. Unfortunately, you got to factor in Notre Dame also, right?
True, that's right. They're in this year.
That's half decent.
7 now.
Yeah, you can't get in, and you can't win. You can't, like Jock said, you can't go 7-3 with D'Eriq King as your quarterback. No. He's got Jared Williams. All right, he's got his right tackle or his left tackle. I don't even remember where. Now he's playing. Now he transferred over from Houston. Also,
it's too
familiarity there.
It's too much talent on this team to even be talking 7 wins. 7 wins is like, that's underwhelming for me because
you can't win 7 games.
No.
You have 1 free win in UAB because that's going to be as easy as they get. So you've just got to win, at least 7 more games beyond that to consider it a successful season, I think.
Absolutely. You got to go 9-2, I think, at the very least.
Miami, if they play to their potential, should go 11-1. Clemson, the only game that is like, and hold on, like you still have to factor in Trevor Lawrence still may opt out of the season because it's no value for him to play this year.
Right. Yeah,
and
they got DJ Ugalele over there. That guy's
and he's good. He's pretty good, but at the same time, he's not Trevor Lawrence right now. Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in the country. You have to factor in him opting out because there's no value of him playing this season. So a lot of those guys in Clemson, they're already out their star player with Thomas. You can look for some more big name college players to opt out because if an agent's paying me $2-3 million, Trevor Lawrence agent is probably going to offer him $5 to $10 million. Hey, let's go ahead and sit out this year, work on your craft to get ready for the NFL. It's no value, so you have to factor that in.
But at the same time, Donno, I think going back to what you had initially said about the recruits, and I know we kind of skipped over the big news with Leonard Taylor a little bit, but
I think
it's a good thing that and someone brought it up in the chat. As far as how much has COVID played a part in Manny keeping some guys home, like Leonard Taylor, Romello Brinson, who decommitted and then committed again, James Williams, all these guys, right? I think it plays a big role in that, they want to stay close to home. They want to be close to their family in case they do get sick. I think we seem to, maybe not us here, but people seem to forget these guys they're kids. They're 18 years old, 19 years old, and when you get sick, who's the first person you call? You call mommy. Right.
I'm a grown man and I still call my mom.
I live with my fiance.
I'm married.
He's a medical professional. I still call my mom. You know what I mean? So and so I think it's important, but at the same time, I think that and correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they come out with the whole getting paid for your likeness, your image, and all that as well in Florida?
Yeah, and 2021
next year, July.
Right. So that doesn't affect this year, but next year.
Yeah, I mean, Leonard Taylor, 5-star guy, number 1 defensive lineman in the country, I guess, right? By a lot of standings. I mean, that he could have got anywhere.
So, quick question: how do you guys compare the Palmetto 5 to the Northwestern guys? Do you feel like the Palmetto 5 can have more of an impact on the Hurricanes in the next 3 to 5 years, or do you feel like Northwestern? Well, we all know what they did. They underperformed.
Well, and you know what, Jock? I think you answered your own question there. I think you answered your own question there.
Was a part of that program, so we can't compare it that way because it's not a quarterback committing in the class.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. You got to compare position by position, and can you compare Marcus Forston to Leonard Taylor? Sure, I guess you can, right? Because they were both the top defensive guys in the country that year, and maybe a wide receiver you can compare. Rashard Smith to who? Aldarius Johnson, maybe. I guess, right?
He's smarter than
he's small. That's the thing, right? So maybe what's the other kid? Thompson. The other kid that we had, Tompkins. The Tompkins kid.
Kemba Tompkins.
I don't know. It's tough to say, but Palmetto 5, baby. I mean, we can only live in the now.
So
Yeah.
my only thing with the Palmetto Five is this: it's a lot of pressure being from Miami and playing at Miami because, being a former college athlete, it is because when you're at home, those guys that you grew up with pressuring, oh hey, why are you not playing? Hey, why are you not on the two deep? Hey, why is this happening? Why is that happening? So it's a lot of outside noise that's coming. I think those guys are staying home, one because of COVID. But two, I think they believe in what Manny Diaz has going over there. But like I said, ultimately, if Manny Diaz doesn't win this year, I don't see him finishing out as the coach. You know what I mean? I think they will go after a big name finally. Like at my alma mater, we got Les Miles. I thought Les Miles would have been a perfect fit in Miami. Also, Butch Davis, you can bring him back home for me.
I don't know. I mean, and I like Butch. I think that ship may have sailed because I think there are some people in trustee positions who are not big fans of his. So I just don't know if that's ever going to happen. But I mean, sticking on Leonard Taylor and the Palmetto Five for a second. I mean, Danny, what do you make of this commit? I mean, Leonard Taylor is a guy who, an absolute stud. You know, we know what he's capable of. I mean, how is Manny doing it? Does it have a lot to do with this COVID stuff, keeping these kids at home? Like, how is this even happening?
I'm not sure because this is a trend that really started this offseason, with landing De'Ara King and landing, players that can make an impact. I think some of it has to do with staying at home, but I also think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there's a certain mystique with playing in Miami and for Miami, and kids want to be a part of that. I think they recognize that the program is at least trying to be on the upswing. I mean, it's amazing how many kids have wanted to go to Miami and have wanted to stay home. And I think honestly, I've noticed on my social media accounts, kids talk to one another on social media. They tweet at one another on social media. Hey, school X is really great. You should come here, or please come here, bro. Like, we'll be a great team. So I bet you there's a lot of talking behind the scenes with these players, trying to join up and build a strong team, because I think it's a lot like the NBA and how they get like their friends to play and like the big three and things like that. I think it's kind of starting to infiltrate college sports in the sense that kids want to play with one another and kids want to play for Miami because they recognize that Miami is at least trying to build something special.
What do you think, Paul? Oh, sorry, Jack, to cut you off.
We can't forget Miami just went 10-2 the last that was in 2016 or 2015. So it's not that long removed from a great season. I just think the expectations got
2017, I think, actually.
2017, yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just think the expectations got to them after the previous year. Like, it was so much ride. Like, oh, Miami went 10-2. All right, hey, these guys are going to be able to compete. And then it just did not play out with Mark Riggin. I think he just lost the team after that.
Paul, what do you think about Leonard Taylor and everything?
It's huge. I mean, it's just every year there's always like a few elite prospects from South Florida that end up going to the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Georgias. We see it every year where it gets down to the wire and then they just can't close the deal. So it's just right now, it's honestly, I'm amazed because, it's not like, I feel like at one point you didn't expect Miami to land any of the Palmetto Five. Like, no Collier, no Leonard Taylor, no Brashard Smith, none of them. They were all looking the other way. But now it's possible that they could land all five. They already have three in the fold. Yeah. And I think one thing that even James Williams mentioned in his commitment note, as well as Leonard Taylor did in his announcement, is that they realize the appeal of playing in front of their friends and family. Like, they can drive probably 30, 40 minutes max to Hard Rock Stadium and watch them play, like 6 times a year. And that's a big thing, and I think one example I'm thinking of is with Tracy Howard back in 2012, where he was looking the other way. He was looking at Florida, he was looking at LSU. Miami is not in the conversation up until that last weekend before National Signing Day. And one thing to notice is that, especially in the areas, like, these guys play together in Pop Warner. They have a lot of familiarity with each other. I think Duke Johnson was like, hey, we played together growing up. Why not do it in college? Why not do it at the next level? We're elite prospects. Let's do it together. And it's still, man, I don't know. It's because I remember 2019 was a really horrible class. I think that class finished like in the 30s. And then just this recent class where they just finished 6 and 7, guys. Like they shouldn't be doing this well. And I'm not saying anything's like wrong. I'm gonna just go with it. But I think it just goes to show that, the coaches are definitely doing some serious damage behind the scenes that we don't even know about. And they're really doing a great job of building these relationships, early as well. Like they've taught Avante Williams since he was in the 8th grade. That's a 5-year process, 4 or 5-year process that led up to his commitment this past February. So the coaches are just either valuing relationships, they're knowing what points to hit on, and they're getting these guys to, realize that, hey, playing at home is different. It's unique. It's powerful. But it's putting on for your city.
Love it. Well, I got to step away, guys, so I'll leave it in your capable hands. I got to put my future Kane to bed, my terrible twos toddler. So it's all about the U. I'll talk to you guys later.
We got it, Donald. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Take care, Alex.
Hey, so you know what? Let's finish off on when it comes to recruiting, because I think it's important to talk a little bit more about it, because we're riding such a high wave right now. With so many guys recruiting, not only so many guys, but the level of talent that is recruiting is coming down to play here. I mean, we're even grabbing some of the best talent other places. In Georgia, we've got Thomas Davis, who committed recently. I think it was last week. Committed over here, a 3-star defensive end / edge rusher, outside linebacker.
James Williams is gonna be playing that position.
Yeah,
I don't see him being a safety. So
no. So I mean, there's a lot of talent that's committing. What do you guys want to see? And we'll start with Danny. Where do you guys want to see the Canes kind of finish off strong? What can you see them do now with the last 4 or 5 spots that they have now, especially with Corey Hammett decommitting as well? What do you see them doing?
I could see them trying to get more depth defensively, because this is more so than ever. This is becoming a passing game. Football is no longer the ground and pound, run 5-10 yards. It's becoming a passing game where, players need to get after the quarterback, and cornerbacks need to be able to cover. I think, offensively with this class, I feel like they're in a comfortable spot, but they could definitely use a few more pieces. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Miami has 2 safeties in this class, correct? Or is that 2021?
Yeah, James
That's
Williams
safeties, yeah.
and Kitchen.
And Kitchens.
No question. Cameron Kitchen.
I remember watching film on James Williams and just how tall he was and how much he was able to cover ground and roam the field was particularly impressive to me. I mean, no longer are safeties, expected to just be the ground and pound, type of players. They also now have to cover, running backs if they go out, into the flat, or they have to, watch out for running backs on streaks, or maybe even try to cover a slot receiver. So, to see Williams' athleticism was very encouraging, because safeties need to be able to cover these days, and they need to be athletic. And, Williams certainly brings that, and Cameron Kitchens certainly brings that as well. So I think they're doing a nice job in recruiting of, adapting to this game of football. And I hate to keep bringing it back to that, but even when I was like 10 years old, I can remember, running being a huge focal point. And now it's no longer a focal point anymore.
Jock, I want to bring this to you because, he brings up a good point about the size and length of these safeties. Cameron Kitchens 6'4", 215 pounds. James Williams 6'5", 220. Aside from those two being so big, and I know James Williams, when someone brought up him moving to the striker position, he didn't, he balked at it, and I get that, and I understand why. But I happen to like the fact that we have that striker position, because it allows us to put another safety on the field that can cover but can also lay the wood. What do you think about that?
Well, these guys have to get out of their feelings when they're transitioning into college, because this is a business. This is not hey, I'm looking at it projecting you for NFL standards, right? So we take a guy like Isaiah Simmons, who went to college as a safety, but you see what they had to do to him. Hey, move you down in the box. Now you got a guy who would be a third or fourth round pick at safety. Just look at his counterpart, Curse, the previous years when they had Javon Curse at safety at Clemson. He didn't want to move the linebacker. He moves the linebacker, you're a first round pick. You
Yep.
stay at safety. Hey, we'll go fifth, sixth round pick, and then Hurst should stop. So those guys have to get out of their feelings with that. Now, if you're just good enough to play the position, then yes. But to me, watching the film on those guys, I see Williams going to linebacker for sure because I think he'll be a great. He can cover. He's athletic enough to cover tight ends and slots receivers. He's
Right.
not athletic enough to get down in the box and cover Jerry Jeudy in the slot or cover Amari Cooper or something like that. But if you put him on Gronkowski or Travis Kelce, we can erase those guys out of the game. I know I'm comparing NFL
Yeah, but we get
to college,
Yeah, it's a
but
good comparison.
right? You can take those guys out of the game. You cannot be like so. I know you balking at it, but hey, I feel like Williams is going to be at the striker position. Kitchens, I think he's a little bit more fluid to me. I think I see him as a free safety because I like how he does attack the football at that. But that's how I see it. That's just what it is. When you're transitioning to college, it's no more about what you want to do and what it is. This is a business. I have to win games, and if I lose games, I'm gonna get fired. So it does not matter.
And I feel like Jaccare brings up a good point because more so than ever, if you're athletic and you're a linebacker, or if you're athletic and you're a safety, and you can cover, you no longer necessarily have a position. The coaches are going to put you where they see fit to get to the quarterback, to stop offenses, and try to eliminate as many yards as possible. Football, in that sense, is becoming a positional game.
Yeah, what linebacker in the NFL now? You go and watch. They all talk about what linebackers who can cover, play in space, run and chase guys. The guy Chaz Surratt that plays at North Carolina.
He's a quarterback, yeah. Remember that?
He's the perfect linebacker for the NFL. We're not looking for no guy who can stop the run. We're looking for guys who we can match up on the field.
Exactly.
Keep them in the game and stuff like that. So when they get to college safety, guys who play safety especially, and guys who play corner, they got to get the emotions out of the game because sometimes you're just a better box player than you are safety, and sometimes you're a better safety than you are corner. You cannot cover at corner. Move your safety. It's okay. I'd rather play 15 years in the league than playing 1 year in the league because I cannot play a position.
Exactly.
I'm gonna end recruiting on this last note. We got to save the best for last because quarterbacks are always the best. So Paul, Jake Garcia, now transferring over to Valdosta High, closer to this side of the world, right? I think he's playing with Thomas Davis over at the same high school, or maybe in the same district. But Valdosta High School now transferring over from California. Can you see him in this year's class with the Canes? Can you see him flip?
It's a weird situation with that because USC has 2 quarterbacks committed. One of them is Jake Garcia, and I think I think about a month ago, Miller Moss, who's also a 4-star QB, also committed to USC. And I think once we got note of that, people were wondering, okay, is Garcia gonna back out? He's gonna stay in the class because 2 quarterbacks in 1 class sounds a little weird. But then he reaffirmed it, saying that he was planning to enroll early at USC. So it's a lot. I mean, I'm sure Miami will put the pressure on, but I know he's a little bit closer to us. But he seems very committed to USC. And and you brought the Thomas Davis point. He's actually playing at the rival school of Thomas Davis because in Valdosta there's Valdosta High and then there's Lowndes.
Right.
So they're definitely that game is going to be very, very intense. And thing is, Miami also has to weigh right now too because they have 21 commits right now and they have 3 spots left because they counted Jared Williams forward. So you kind of have to value whether do you want QB with that? Do you want to lock up 2 of those for Jason Marshall and Corey Collier out of Palmetto, and then they have a bunch of other. There's some noise about them recruiting Terrence Lewis again out of Northwestern, even though might not be a great culture fit. And then you have Keith Brown out of what was it, Pace, or I think Gulliver, and then Amari Daniels, the running back out of Central. So
Right.
I feel like it's even though there was only 3 spots left, I feel like there's still a lot of moving parts because one guy could be dropped to make space for another. But I feel like the number one rule of recruiting is that you got to include a QB in your class. Although good things have been said about Tyler Van Dyke, the freshman right now on the roster, but just to be safe, I would want Garcia if he wants in, and hopefully Lashley can work his magic and come to Miami. But it's a lot of kind of just fluidity at this point.
So, I think.
About-
Go ahead, Jock. You want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm about to take off, you guys. Great podcast. Y'all can follow me on Twitter, KingJock24. I'll be back on 6 Rings again.
Absolutely.
Take care,
All right,
man.
thanks
Easy.
for joining us, man. We'll we'll end with this last little tidbit here. I think I want to, now that the schedule's been released, right? We all know what the schedule looks like. Obviously, we're all hoping that there is a season this year, whether it's now, whether they push it back a little bit, which I hope that's not the case. It's a pretty balanced schedule, I think, with having Florida State, it's Labor Day weekend, I believe, right? Labor Day weekend, I think, or the weekend right before it on September 26th. Is that Labor Day weekend? I don't even know anymore. I don't even know what day it is.
After.
Let me check for you. I'll check for you.
Yeah. September 26th.
Labor
and then
Day
we play
6th, so it's 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. So then we play Clemson right after, back to back. So I don't care how good or how bad Florida State is. It's always a tough game, right? It's a rivalry game. So you've got them in a really intense game, a lot of emotions running high, playing against your brothers that you played. Paul, you brought it up, Pop Warder Ball against. And then you got to go over to Death Valley in Clemson and play those guys.
2 weeks after FSU.
2 weeks after FSU. So the good news is you've got a week to prepare. I think Danny, you were talking about it, or somebody said something about Trevor Lawrence opting out. God, if that happens, then all the cards are falling into place for Miami to get into the playoff. But how do you guys see the season shaping out? What do you think is going to be our toughest stretch, maybe toughest games, whether it's against a good team or not? Whichever one wants to go.
I think there's this 3-game stretch, which includes the Clemson game. It's Louisville, Florida State, and Clemson, and those teams will play Miami tough no matter what because it's in their DNA. But I think that particular 3-game stretch will be the toughest for the Hurricanes. It's interesting because I was looking at schedules, around the country, and there's always this stretch of games that, teams are like, we have to face them back to back to back. But other than that, I really don't see another stretch like that that would cause Miami problems. Now, if Trevor Lawrence opts out, that stretch gets significantly easier. But, that's really the only major problem that I see on Miami's schedule. I mean, obviously, this is why we play the games for the results, and anything can happen. But that's really the only, big question mark on the schedule for me, anyway.
I look at the second half of the schedule, and I feel like the one thing that always gets Miami every season, I call them the trap games, where these are average tier teams, even lower tier teams, and they blow something, they mess up, and then they end up losing a close one, and I look at Pitt, I look at Virginia, NC State, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, these games.
Wake Forest. Every time we play Wake Forest, it's a brawl every time.
They make it harder than it should be.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Miami, there's no shortage of talent on Miami's team. They can recruit. Miami coaches can recruit. The talent is not the question. To me, the question is preparation. I know if you go into FSU or Clemson, you're gonna take that game seriously as a coach and a player. That's okay, we're playing against the best of the best. We have a chip on our shoulder. We got to go out and give it our all. But it's just a matter of, okay, if it's an okay team, can we really, we got to take care of business. We got to prove that we are the better team. And they've really been lackluster with that. Not even just like last year, but probably like the past 2 or 3 years since that 10-3 season. So I'm just looking at Pitt, Virginia, NC State, Virginia Tech. North Carolina is going to be a lot tougher because North Carolina has gotten better, especially with Sam Howell at quarterback.
Yeah, they're good this year, man. They're going to be a top 25 team, I think.
Yeah,
Mac Brown too makes a difference.
Exactly. He's doing an amazing job over there. It's crazy. And for me, it's just they got to win the winnable games. They got to win the winnable games, come prepared, and I'm sure that the leadership style this year is different, especially with De'Aaron King. I think De'Aaron King, first thing he did when he arrived on campus was call the receivers and said, "Hey, you want to get a workout in?" And I feel like we were lacking that with Williams last year, where there was rumors about him breaking curfew before the FIU game. Just rumors, not going to confirm anything, but I think it's going to depend a lot on King as well, and just his preparedness, because it's going to influence the entire morale of the team. If our quarterback cares, then we have reason to care.
I think you bring up an amazing point, Paul, and I guess we'll end it here. We've lacked that maturity, that leadership factor from the most important position on the field for God knows how long now, and that's the quarterback. All right, going back, I mean, you can go back to maybe the last time we had anybody that was a bit of a leader there. A little bit. Stephen Morris was a little bit of a leader. I mean, he was maybe not the best player. I mean, it's been a while, right? I mean, guys like Jaron Williams, nothing. Malik Revere, God bless his soul. We went 10-2 with him that year.
Kaya was solid too. I like Kaya.
Kaya was probably the last guy that, had he stayed an extra year, we could have done something special possibly that next year. So that you bring up that's a great point, Paul. For me, it's gonna start and end with Derek King, 100%. You've got all the talent, Cameron Harris. You've got Jalen Knighton, and you've got. I'm a huge Robert Burns fan, by the way. I know he's been hurt and he has underperformed like hell, but I love him. I love his game. I love the way he plays. Mm-hmm. And all the other guys. I mean, we can go on forever about it, And I will say that one guy that needs to stay healthy and needs to stay on the field and produce is Brevin Jordan, because we've seen glimpses of first teamer, first round guy all the time, but he ends up getting hurt, kind of disappears every once in a while in games. He needs to be more consistent, and I think that's going to be huge with controlling the field. With Derek King, I think it's going to be fun to watch because he has great wheels as well. So it's going to be let's not forget we've got Rhett Lashley now as our offensive coordinator as well. So that's going to be exciting to watch. And I'm not too concerned about our defense. I think we're pretty solid there on the line and in the secondary. I think we're very young at linebacker, but I think that we've got some talented guys there, and Zach McLeod coming back I think helps. But
the thing is, they have the weapons. Like King has the weapons on offense.
Yeah,
like they have a great running back. They have solid receivers. They have they have two good tight ends, like Jordan and Will Mallory.
3, right?
Yeah, exactly. And thing is, the defense, you're gonna get at least a top 20 defense at worst. With Manny Diaz and Blake Baker running it, and so I think, and honestly, people really underestimate how much is riding on the Derek King's shoulders, because literally if he's going to help the team flow, and especially with Lashley, if they get the guys the ball in space, and it's the air raid offense like they mentioned, like it's going to be an exciting season. I think it's always quarterback play every year too. It's going to depend on King, and hopefully he gives us some somewhat Heisman magic like he did at Houston in 2018.
It's going to be fun to watch because I think he's going to change the way defenses play us, because they're going to have more people in the box. Simple as that, which is going to open up the field. So that's the biggest thing, right? Before, you didn't have to worry about that with even Jaron Williams. I mean, he had some sort of mobility, but you didn't have to worry about that with Kaya. Rozier a little bit. Rozier can throw the ball down the field, so it didn't matter. Yeah. So I mean, I think this time around, I think hopefully it's wishful thinking. But I think it could be special. I just think he needs to stay on the field. We need to have a season, and just keep improving and developing these guys. So I think we'll be all right. Danny, Paul, I want to thank you guys for coming on. I want to thank Jaccare Givens, Alex Donno, Alejandro behind the scenes putting this together. Thank you so much. let's do this again soon. We've got
Absolutely.
a month left, hopefully a month left before we see you guys at Hard Rock, and we'll do this again. We'll do this again maybe sooner than we think. So,
Absolutely.
you can follow Paul, Danny, tell them where they can follow you on social media.
Okay. Mine is first and last name, Paul Austria _ on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter, on Insta, but all your Canes updates will be coming through Twitter, so definitely give me a follow. I will definitely make it your money's worth, even though it's totally free.
And you can follow me, Danny Jaillet, at DJaillet, JAILLET 95. I do Canes. I do basically whatever Ethan asks me to do. I love writing, so you can follow all of my nonsense that I tweet and all my articles there.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm Jazz _ Santana 17, but a lot of my Canes stuff comes from our 5 Reasons Canes Twitter handle, so you can follow us there. Please follow us there. Show us some love. Retweet everything. It's at 5 Reasons Canes. I can't believe I had to actually look it up to make sure that I was saying it right. But at 5 Reasons Canes, and of course at the 5 Reasons Sports Network, and the rest of the guys. And make sure you check out 5 Rings Canes, our podcast as well. Thank you guys again. This is the 6th ring, and hopefully we can bring that championship home. We'll see. Go Canes. Thank you guys.